Okay, cool. So we see just a very simple contact page with a form. In Figma or any other design tool, we can see that the auto layout is switched on. That's very important for better code quality. Then if we are in Figma, switch over to dev mode, and then read any plugin that you like. In this case, I used Anima plugin, which is free until a certain point. Just export as HTML and CSS. You need to wait a little bit until the export is done. I think there are several plugins that you can use. There are several methods depending on what design software you use, but the most common is obviously Figma. And then as soon as we've got the HTML and CSS files generated by Figma or Penpot, we can start in Cursor, we can start in Windsurf or in VS Code with Klein, a boilerplate standard clean app. In this case, it's a Astro blog, an empty template with default settings, so you don't need to worry about anything here. Just build it locally, make sure it launches, make sure it's working fine on your local machine. These AI tools can explain to you how to set this up if this is the first time you do it. So you can follow the agent as it builds, and if you are stuck, you can always ask. On the screen, you can see that I launched my completely almost empty Astro blog. It's just a line of code. You can find the exact code on the Astro website. It's a very nice, light, open source blog framework, but it can be used for any kind of website. Yeah, and in the end, when the agent is finished, you get a confirmation what has been done. You can see all the files locally on your drive. And next step is moving all these Figma generated HTML CSS files over to the Astro folder. That would be the second step. Yeah, this is what I mentioned. Make sure that you have the local instance running in your browser. You can create any kind of folder inside the Astro folder. You can name it as you want. I call it index.html, but it doesn't matter. But be careful to call the CSS files as it is exactly. So nicely, one by one, we create one HTML and 3 CSS files. And when we are done, we can just open up in Chrome or any browser. And you can check the quality of the Anima plugin generation. So you can see that your designs has been converted into a static HTML. So 1, 2, and 3 steps. First step is done. Second step is done. We've got the HTML running very soon. You will see on the recording. Here we go. I just skipped the icons and any assets for now for this demo, but you can manually export them and tell your AI code generation that, hey, these are my icons, these are my fonts, pick them up from this folder and implement them. Now I instruct cursor to analyze the HTML template folder. Plan out how you implement this block template based on my designs. It will give you a detailed plan that you can confirm. If you're happy with this plan, just confirm and proceed. The cursor is using the Anthropic Sonnet language model, which is one of the best in coding. And obviously it is not something very complex, it's front end. Step by step it's creating the components. Everything is in the same style as in the original Figma. Picking up the fonts, colors, pixel perfect, margins, paddings, and so on. Cursor took the decision to install Tailwind as a dependency. You can decide whether you want it or not. I just approved it. We must keep an eye on these agentic systems, because they sometimes go too far. They make decisions. It's very rare that they decide the wrong way, but it's better to keep an eye on them. And here we go. The template is done. We can see the pixel perfect implementation of the original Figma design. So if you compare the original, this is the plugin generated HTML, and now this is the dynamic Astro template that you can deploy to hosting services like Netlify or Verso. Now I'm demonstrating that with natural language instructions, you can just say replace the logo with a message. So you don't need to go back to Figma anymore for design changes. But you need to decide whichever is even more quicker. You can go back to Figma, for example, to change colors and test them quickly, and then just copy the specific CSS over to your AI code generation tool and ask to implement the new color palette or library. And then when you are done, you can ask the AI code generation agent, in this case Cursor, to deploy to Netlify. And depending on your settings, because there is a chat mode and the agent mode, it does it completely autonomous. Or you can ask to give you the instructions that you can do it manually, if you prefer. I did it manually in this case. Obviously, you need an empty Git repository first, and then as a second step, go to Netlify. This is one way of working. There might be much shorter workflows. It depends on your level. It depends on your preference. This works for me personally. The steps that the AI is telling you is very, very, very useful, because they are clearly numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. You can just follow and you'll be fine. The last step is connecting Netlify with a GitHub repo. You can leave everything as default setting. And the very last step is deploy button. Few minutes to wait. And it should be running without any error. So the same process is being done by Netlify, what you did before. First, you remember we did the local build, and now Netlify is building it on the cloud server. So nothing special. And if you think it's too complicated, the AI can confirm that next time it will be, any other changes will be much, much easier and quicker because the app is already running, Astro is set up. So the fun part begins from here. All right. Deploy log is very important. Everything must be green. And when you have the message site is live, you can see the public URL, public address, and see your template done. In this case, contact